In the Mymensingh district of Bangladesh, there is a village called Charpara. It is a place of bamboo groves and green fields, but at its center sits a body of water the locals refuse to touch, the Black Water Pond. In September 2017, an 8-year-old boy named Rafi fell asleep in his mother's arms. When she woke at dawn, her front door was standing open. The bed beside her was empty. Rafi was gone. The village elders didn't look for a kidnapper. They looked at the pond. They say its water stays ice cold even in the summer heat, and that it has a history of taking children. A girl named Sumaya vanished there in 2014. A boy named Karim followed in 2015. Panic took hold of the 300 families living in Charpara. Rafi's mother claimed she saw small hands rising from the water's surface, while others reported hearing the muffled cries of children vibrating up through the soil beneath their feet. The local police closed the files, calling the disappearances unsolvable mysteries. With no one to investigate and no one to protect them, the villagers were left to face the darkness alone. The families being targeted shared a specific vulnerability. While Rafi's mother struggled to maintain their rural home, his father spent his days pulling a rickshaw in the crowded streets of Dhaka, miles away from the crisis. Nahid, a journalist from the city, arrived in Charpara to document the growing hysteria. He found a village where logic had been replaced by a deep collective dread. Nahid went to the pond himself at midnight. As he stood on the bank, the wind stopped. He reported hearing a child's voice whisper, "Uncle," directly into his ear, and saw a distorted shape moving just beneath the surface of the water. Nahid didn't find a spirit that night. Instead, he found a community so isolated that their only way to process tragedy was through folklore, and a local government that seemed perfectly comfortable letting them believe the myth. Rather than chasing shadows, Nahid began looking into the village's paper trail, examining land deeds and civil court records. One name appeared in nearly every significant transaction: Karim Matabor. He was the wealthiest landlord in the village, a man whose influence was so total that even the local police avoided crossing him. When the history of the families is mapped out, every line converges on Karim Matabor. The records show that at the time each child vanished, their parents were involved in active court cases against Matabor over land ownership. Rafi's father had filed his lawsuit just 2 weeks before his son went missing. Matabor didn't need to invent the legend of the pond. He simply used the village's existing fear as a cloak, knowing that as long as the neighbors blamed the water, no one would look at him. By ensuring the villagers remained terrified of the supernatural, he effectively silenced any witnesses. The fear of the ghost provided him with an alibi that the law couldn't touch. Nahid identified a specific location, an abandoned house Matabor owned on the edge of the pond, which locals claimed glowed with a strange light at night. Recognizing the local authorities wouldn't act, Nahid contacted the Rapid Action Battalion in Dhaka. He presented the connection between the land disputes and the disappearances. An elite tactical unit descended on the property in the middle of the night. Flashlights cut through the dark, dusty rooms of the house Matabor had kept locked for years. Under the floorboards, they found what the village assumed had been lost to the pond: Sumaya's school bag, a single shoe belonging to Karim, and the handmade amulet Rafi's mother had tied around his neck. The recovery of these ordinary objects transformed the supernatural mystery into a homicide investigation. The Black Water Pond was no longer the culprit, the landlord was. Karim Matabor was arrested and eventually sentenced for his crimes. The legal battle for the land was over. But in Charpara, the resolution hasn't brought peace. The villagers still lock their windows at sunset, and the path to the pond remains overgrown and abandoned. Years of calculated psychological manipulation have left a trauma that facts alone cannot fix. Logical proof of a crime does not instantly erase a community's deep-seated fear of the dark. Even now, locals claim that on certain nights, the voices of the children still call out from the water. Whether it is the wind or a collective memory, the village cannot stop listening. The story of Charpara shows that the greatest danger to a community isn't the monsters they imagine in the water, but the people who realize that a ghost story is the most effective way to commit a crime.